the first one to agree. Players are more talented now. Like the amount of players are more talented now. There was immensely talented guys back in the day, but I think the amount of guys that were talented in the league at that time in comparison to right now is like night and day. But in terms of talent.
I don't want to stay on this fleet, but we can't ignore they have the freedom though.
Right,
I agree with you.
Yeah, I think it goes hand in hand. If guys weren't talented, I don't think they would have the freedom to be able to bring the things that they could bring to the basketball court. Some guys, again, I hate singling my guys out, but Charles Oakley was a one-dimensional type guy, right?
Agree.
I disagree with that. No, I disagree with that.
I think it would be very difficult for him to make the NBA today, as opposed to 1985.
I don't. You can't. What's the guy? Kevon Looney is on the Golden State Warriors. Please.
Oakley can shoot.
Oakley might grab 20 rebounds, and he's not getting guarded like.
How many guys? I mean, that's a great conversation. How many guys are drafted today strictly to rebound in the last 10 years?
Very few.
In the last 10 years.
I mean, you
will get drafted. Dunk is very more likely that Duncan Robinson will get drafted because he can shoot the basketball.
I agree.
Over a guy, I can't even call a guy's name who's just a strictly Drew Timme, one of the best college basketball players in the country at Gonzaga, didn't get drafted, right? He did not get drafted. College Naismith Player of the Year didn't get drafted because they don't know what his NBA skill set is. They don't know what he's going to be in the NBA. In between guy. A guy like Duncan Robinson, who started in a Division III school, who could shoot the shit out the basketball, is going to get drafted, is going to get a job because he could shoot. I'm not trying to kill Charles Oakley. What I'm saying is guys like that who were strictly just big bodies, rebounding basketball, were brought in just for one job, could get jobs back then easier than they could right now. I'm standing on that.
I just disagree with that because it's not like, and y'all don't want to hear this, Rodman's a one-dimensional guy. He's only playing defense, and he rebounds too, by the way.
I would argue it would be hard for Rodman to get a job right now. I would
argue
more
with that than someone who like Oakley, who's more of a two-way player, and we're not giving him that credit. He's shooting the ball in the long range, possibly three-pointers in this era, and he's defending and he's grabbing a rebound for you. He's not going to be.
You're a little biased. We watched a lot of Knick games, so we saw Charles Oakley hit open shots and 15-foot jumpers. But I'm just saying, his skill set, putting it in today's game, I think it would just be more challenging. I'm not saying he can't play in the NBA. It would just be more challenging to get a job.
Maybe for Rick Mahorn. You understand what I'm saying? Like if you watch, look, I was just telling Dom, I was watching Bill Laimbeer highlights recently. Bill Laimbeer would play in this era. He's playing.
He would play.
Of course,
he shot 6 3-pointers in the finals.
I mean, back then they had 5, 6, 7, 8 rounds of drafting, right? You had the opportunity out of 500 guys to get a shot at the NBA. Now it's 2 rounds, 60 players get drafted. Nigga, are you nice or not?
Right. And here's the other thing though, Flea. I don't want to hear anymore. There's more talented player in this era. In this era, at what point in time do you think they played more basketball? Were there more basketball players that existed in the 80s or today? That is pretty simple. They play way more basketball around the world today. That's not hard. That's not a hard math problem. That's not hard to even say. But to say that there's more skilled players in this era, what do you consider a skill? And I'm not being facetious when I say that.
That's a great conversation.
You understand what I'm saying? Like that's why I don't like the Kyrie's the most skilled player ever. Like what skills are we talking about? Kyrie cannot do what Hakeem Olajuwon did. That's not close. So when we talk about skills, like power forward in this era, a center in this era, what are the skills you need to be one? That makes no sense to me.
Real quick, I want to say this. Y'all all made great points. The only point I'm gonna stick to is that I think if those guys back then had the freedom like today, we would have more, like you said, skill set where we can be like, nah, the gap isn't that huge. Give you a prime example. Guy like Derek Harper, offensively was tough, but later on turned into a defensive maniac, which was great. So I'm just saying, I just feel, Flea, you have a great point. Because when you look at a KD, a Joker, a Kyrie, some of these guys, even Kobe Bean, like, yeah, and then you put tapes on of other guys, it definitely the gap is huge. But once again, I'm gonna stick to the freedom. Like I said, if Steph Curry doesn't have the freedom to beat Steph Curry, I think we see a whole different player. So I think players given the freedom to do what their skill set is able to do and be great, I think that's also very underrated. I think that's underrated. I really do.
Was that the perfect segue for Steph Curry versus Magic Johnson, best point guard ever?
Ooh, that started some smoke.